it's one of my favorite concepts. I wrote about this in my book, 9 Things You Simply Must Do to Succeed in Love and Life. Now, what 9 things you simply must do? What is that about? Well, here's why I wrote that book, and here's why I came across, or how I came across this particular topic we're going to talk about for a few minutes here. We write a lot of books in categories, and I was writing on marriage and getting well and achieving your goals and business leadership and all these different topics. But I spend about 80 to 100 days a year in the war rooms with very, very high performers and people that run things, people that lead teams, people that lead, global kinds of companies and have very, very fruitful lives. And across that spectrum of dealing with some incredible people that do great things for other humans, just great things for the human race and for individuals, and watching them over so many years. One of the things I love about my work is I just get to see great human beings do wonderful things for others. And here's what would happen. Every now and then I would see one of these types do something, and I would have this feeling that it's like a deja vu feeling. I was going, wait a minute, where do I know that person? I know this guy, or I know this woman. Where do I? And then and then they weren't, this is the first time I met them or in a meeting or something. The reality was I didn't know them, but then it dawned on me, I don't know them. I know what they just did. I've seen that before. I've seen somebody say that. I've seen somebody behave that way. I've seen somebody think that way. So I decided, look, if there are some themes of what highly successful, highly fruitful, the way I define success is people in life that are fruitful, however they've chosen, in whatever field they've chosen to do that. It doesn't necessarily mean, like our society always thinks of success, financially successful, but that's such a one minuscule measure of people's success. There are highly successful people that make average amounts of money. But I'm talking about fruitful. And what I learned was there are some things that highly fruitful people do that unfruitful people don't do. And so what does all performance literature teach us? It teaches us to deconstruct what successful people are doing into the components of what they do, and then start doing those components, and voila, you will be like them, right? And so I started to collect these, and over a period of about 3 years, every time I would have that thing, oh, I've seen that before. I've seen somebody behave that way, respond that way, think that way, do that thing. I wrote it down and I put it in a big file. And then after about 3 years, I dumped it out and I did what statisticians call a factor analysis, which is where you look for correlations between all those things. You got 100 different items here, and you start to see how they're internally correlated. That these 5 really are talking about the same thing, and these 17 are really talking about the same thing. And then I lumped them up, and I came up with 9 things, and that's what that book's about. Well, today I want to look at one of the 9 things. And here is what I called it in the book. Play the movie. Play the movie. Now, what does play the movie mean? Started the chapter out with a story. This older guy was sitting on the park bench, and this young 20-something comes up and sits down next to him. It's early in the morning. He's dressed up in a suit, and the older man looks over there and notices him, and goes back to reading his paper. And after a few minutes, the 23-year-old, 24-year-old young man turns to the older guy. He says, "Excuse me, sir, do you have the time?" The old man sitting there with his newspaper, and he looks at him and looks him up and down and says, No. Went back to reading his paper. He said, "Sir, sir, could I have the time? He says, no. Goes back to reading his paper. And this is perplexing the young guy. And so after a few more minutes, he said, sir, can I ask you something? He said, sure. He said, I noticed you have a watch, but you wouldn't give me the time. Why not? Doesn't seem like that big a deal. The older gentleman takes off his glasses, he puts this newspaper down in his lap, and he turns to him and he says, you know, son, I noticed you when you came and sat there, and I know you're a sharp looking kid. And you got, you dressed very nicely, and you got that suit on, and it looks like you're headed off to work, and you got a good job, and you're sitting there reading the Wall Street Journal, which, says you're thinking about, kind of not so simple things. And you just strike me as a kind of young man that I would like. I'd like to get to know you and hang out with you. We probably have a lot in common. If I started talking to you, if I gave you the time, then I'm going to start talking to you. If I start talking to you, then you know what's going to happen next? We're going to become friends. I just know it. And then we become friends, and I'd see you here again, and we'd talk, and then we become better friends. And you know what I'd do then? I'd probably say, hey, why don't you come to our house for dinner? I want you to meet my family. And I've got a daughter about your age. And you know what? If you came over to dinner, I bet you would like her. And I bet she would like you. And then you guys might go out on a date. And then you're going to go out on a date, and you're going to fall in love. And you're going to fall in love, and then you're going to get married. And I'll be damned if my daughter is going to marry a man that doesn't own a watch. I'm just not going to let that happen. So, no, you can't have the time. He put his paper back up. There you go. So play the movie. Now, what does that mean? Here's what fruitful people do. They don't do things generally without looking at and playing downstream. If I do that, what happens then? And what happens then? And what happens then? And what happens then? See, they realize that every decision in life has consequences, some of which are unintended, and some of which, much more important, are at odds with something else good that you want. And it might be really good to strike up a conversation and have an enjoyable moment here with this young man. But I'm going to end up with a son-in-law that I don't want if I do that. See, they're looking way down the line. And I saw it over and over and over and over and over and over again. You look at a company and they say, we got an opportunity here to start this spinoff from this product line. And then, everybody's all excited about, look at this opportunity. And yeah, but if we do that, what that's going to do is it's going to take, some of what we're doing over here, and actually some of those sales, we're going to end up cannibalizing our entire line that we've got planned out for 4 years. Or some of the employees are going to like that sexy project over there better, and they're going to morph, and then we have a talent that's going to drain talent over here. Or if I go do this, and they never do anything. We got a call yesterday from a nice lady who is dating a guy, and she's divorced, and she's got a couple of kids, and he's got a couple of kids. And, she did a normal thing. Hey, come over and hang out and bring your kids. That's a normal thing to do. But she didn't look to see where that movie goes. Look at the, middle of the movie or latter parts of the movie. Now she's created too much attachment in a blended family with somebody that she might not want in the rest of that movie. See, she wasn't thinking about, if I do this, where is it going to lead? If I do this, where is it going to lead? And you know what I'm talking about? I'm not talking about stupid stuff. I mean, stupid is as stupid does, wasn't it, Forrest Gump? So that, I'm not talking about, you go out and do something dumb, you're going to have consequences. I hope you're thinking about that. What I'm talking about here is sometimes good stuff. if I sign up for that course, it's going to take this amount of time. I got to go to class and get in the car, and that's however many nights, a month or something. Then what's that going to take away from? What's going to suffer as a result of that? And who's going to be affected? And if I affect that relationship like that, what you get the picture. So whatever you're doing in a scene of a movie, it might make a great scene, but if you're writing a movie, now you gotta, whatever happened in that scene, that's going to affect the whole plot of the whole story. And that's how successful people think. They do it naturally. It taps into something we call the executive functions of the brain, which is the ability to look at a future state that doesn't exist. Okay. Like, what do I want to do this evening? And then organize resources and activities and timelines that are going to make that happen, and not do stuff that's going to keep it from happening. Start to think about that. Whatever you're signing up for, whatever you're saying yes to. Somebody you got a big event tonight, right? Some important thing is happening. Well, somebody calls you and says, "Hey, let's go for a hike this afternoon. I got about an hour and you can do it." You go, "Oh yeah, my schedule's open. I can do that." But you do that, and then you're going to be wiped out tonight, right? Maybe you don't do that today. Simple example. But in the big scheme of life, when we start to play the movie forward, it changes our behavior. Let me give you one more example of this. When my girls were little, you know what it's like if you've had kids. I mean, if you've really exhausted yourself out there working or traveling or whatever, and you come home and it's like, daddy's home, daddy, and it's like that. I mean, it's great, right? But sometimes you just don't have it in you. And so I would, I do a lot of traveling, and sometimes I might have, just killed myself to get back home, so I wouldn't have a night on the road or 2 nights on the road or something. And I might have, been on the East Coast and gotten up before dawn and worked all day, and then had 3 connections to get home. And I'm so tired. And I come home and I go in the door, and here's these 2 little girls. And they'd be so happy to see their daddy come home. And I would just, sometimes I feel like, oh, I just don't have it in me. I'm on a different time zone. But you know what? It would be so easy to say, "Girls, hi, give them a hug. Daddy's tired. I'm gonna go to bed," or I'm gonna, whatever. But I would play the movie forward, and then I would see what's being formed in that little girl's head, who has this longing, which little girls do, for the only man in their life. And they want his attention. And if he shows up and gives them their attention, their little brains get wired to be drawn to and want men that actually show up and give them their attention. But if he's unavailable, if I come home and I'm not unavailable, I'm playing the movie forward. What's going to happen when their little brains get wired to be drawn to and have a pattern of being drawn to the unavailable, emotionally the unavailable guy? And that's their script. Well, 20 years later, what does their life look like when that's the guy that they're trying to fix, and he's self-centered and only thinking about himself. See, we start to play the movie forward, it changes our behavior. It's also a nightmare if you're a psychologist. Your kid skips eating their broccoli one day and you see 14 prison sentences in their future. So you can overdo it, right? But you get the idea. So whatever you're thinking about doing now in life, it's like Alice in Wonderland. She's running down the road and there's a fork in the road and the Cheshire Cat's sitting there and Alice is running down the road. She goes, looks at the fork in the road and says, which way do I go? And he says, where are you trying to get to? She goes, I don't know. He says, well, then I guess it doesn't matter much, does it? No, it doesn't matter what I do today if I'm not thinking about where that's going to end me up. Play the movie, guys. Play the movie.